Okay, well, it's almost 10 o'clock on New Year's Eve 2018, and we're at perfect timing in downtown Aurelia. I'm here along with Kirsten Beck Brownbill, and we're doing this short video, hopefully to explain a little bit of the backstory behind this clock that's standing beside me. It's about to start striking as well, so you'll get to hear it momentarily. The story starts probably about 50 years ago, almost 50 years ago, and when I was 15 years old, I walked into a jewelry store on the main street of North Bay looking for a job. The owner of the store offered me a job raking leads, and I explained to him that because of my situation, I was married at the time with a baby on the way, that I needed something a little bit more permanent. So the owner of the store asked me what I would be interested in doing with my life, and at that time I had really hoped to get into electronics or something in that field, electronics engineering or something to do with that. And he sort of lit up when I mentioned electronics, and he asked me if I had ever thought of becoming a watchmaker. At 15 years of age, I had no idea what a watchmaker was, obviously, and so I basically said, sure, whatever, what's a watchmaker? Anyways, it ends up that he put me through school for 3 years to learn the trade of watchmaking, and that was when I was 15 years old. About 45 years later, when I was 60, I'd been doing watchmaking my entire life, and I was starting to feel at the age of 60, like most people do, I guess, that I need to think of some sort of a legacy that I can leave behind so that people will remember me. So I was interested in looking at my own history at that point, and I did some research on my family background. It was rather difficult. I knew that my father had come from England when he was 2 years old, that his mother, my grandmother, had brought him over from England at the age of 2. But that was pretty much as I knew about my father's family. I knew that my grandmother had been married and divorced 5 times. So I didn't know too much about my father's family history. It was very difficult to trace the history back, but I spent pretty much 24 hours online at different websites looking for historical documents, marriage and death certificates, different things, birth certificates, obviously. And I went through ancestry.ca, and I was able to trace back my father's line, my grandfather on my father's side. I was able to trace that family back to the mid-1700s. What really shocked me the most was that there was watchmaking in my family, which I had no idea about. Watchmaker, and he started in the trade of watchmaking in the 1770s in Leeds, England. So that was kind of a shock, and I thought, oh, well, isn't that interesting that there's actually watchmaking in my background? It explained a lot of things about why I would start in the trade at 15 and never do anything else with my life. And so it was kind of interesting. It answered a lot of questions about my background for me and my DNA, having watchmaking in my background, which I had no idea about. So that made me curious, and I did some research on this Henry Brownbill online again, and I found a trade publication from the 1990s which had a story about the Brownbills of Leeds. And so I was able to find out more from this. I was actually able to purchase the trade publication through eBay, and a fascinating story. It turns out that this 5th great grandfather of mine happened to be rather a famous watchmaker, clockmaker. He was also a silversmith, I found out from the article, and he had been commissioned to mint coins for the realm, I guess. So one of the coins that he minted also happened to be available on eBay at auction, and I was able to purchase that coin. So the coin was minted in Yorkshire, and just thought that was kind of interesting. So the clock, the story of this particular clock that we have now in the store, goes back 3 years. And we started searching basically, for anybody in England that would have a clock with the family name on it. Now that we knew that there was watchmaking in the family background, then we were able to find a clock that was done by a relative of Henry Brownbill's, who is not my direct line, but one of James Brownbill. And this clock was made in 1812, we believe, or somewhere in that area. And we were able to purchase this clock at auction in England. Or actually, no, sorry, this clock wasn't at auction. We actually sent out emails to different shops in England, in the area. And it turns out that a little clock shop in Larrock area of Yorkshire had a Brownbill clock that they were selling. And so we were able to purchase it and have it shipped over. And then still looking for different various things, always having a search online for various things. I found a silver pocket watch made by Henry Brownbill, but I wasn't able to obtain it. And then a year ago, almost a year ago now, in January or February of 2018, I was able to find, a search came up positive for a grandfather clock by Henry Brownbill on an auction site, basically in England. And we bid on the clock in January, February, and we won the auction for the clock. We had the clock created and shipped here. The clock arrived here in March, I believe it was, of 2018. And so from there, it's been a journey getting the case restored by a refinisher, and also doing the restoration on the mechanical part of the clock, which I did myself. And so that's the story of this clock. The clock was manufactured by my 5th great-grandfather, and I was able to locate it almost a year ago now and have it shipped here to Canada, where we've been able to restore it. Some interesting facts about the clock that we found out as well is in the back of the clock on the inside there's a label with a customer's or some sort of an address on it, and I was able to, there was pieces of the label missing, but I was able to piece together the actual address from the label, and on Google Maps I was able to locate the house where the clock was, in just outside of part of suburban London, actually, where the clock was located. So that made me wonder, and I noticed when I saw the clock, the condition of the cabinet originally also made me think, I wonder if this clock was in London in one of the bombing raids during the Second World War, because there was some pretty severe damage to the clock, mostly externally, but there was also some damage internally as well. And you can still see signs of the damage in different places on the dial, but it's pretty much been restored. The hands were totally missing off the clock, and we were able to, I was able to obtain some hands that I was able to adapt to fit the clock, and now the clock is up and running, and it's, I don't know how long it's been since it's been running in somebody's house, but it feels like it's come home, and it's here to celebrate New Year's 2019. Happy New Year!